Fertilizers are real interesting. They've got so many different varieties out on the market now. People ask, what do I recommend? Whatever type you're using, make sure you follow the directions. It's going to be the first thing I say. Depending on the time of the year, going into fall and winter, whatever fertilizer, if you elect to fertilize your lawn or your plants, do not use anything with high nitrogen. You want nitrogen to be very low. You don't want to promote a lot of growth and then turn around, we finally get our nice freeze and burn it all off and everything's looking rough.
And why don't you take them through the three numbers? So there's three numbers on fertilizer, okay? Everyone, it'll be 10, 10, 10. This one's 15.
This one's 15, 30, 15. Nitrogen's going to be your first number, the phosphorus, middle number, potassium, the last number. If I got that right? Yeah, got it right. Generally, the first one's going to be for your new growth. The nitrogen, getting your new growth coming up out of, say, a dormant state in spring. The middle number, depending on who you talk to, generally, from my knowledge and everything, it is going to be more associated with setting blooms, getting the plants to bloom. Last number generally associated with the root system. As far as getting your roots to grow and have your plants get established faster, I normally advise something with a low first number this time of the year, high middle, and high last. That way your plants can be getting established and ready for the spring coming around. Once it hits somewhere around late March, 1st of April, do your higher nitrogen fertilizer. You can do something with more or less a high first, high last number. Get them growing. Bloom stuff is already set. Should be ready to bloom going into spring. Depending on the plant, could be summertime.
So something like this color burst fertilizer, you'd use that on annuals, you'd use it on perennials, you'd use it on flowering shrubs, anything that you want to promote flowering in, you'd use that bloom booster, and it really works. And when you look at it, I mean, the way fertilizer's mixed, there's these three elements that David mentioned, and sometimes you can see the different colors of the elements in the fertilizer. Sometimes they're red, sometimes they're white, sometimes they're green, but when you look at the fertilizer, they're all in there together, and that just refers to how many parts of each one it has in there.
Select fertilizers, there are certain ones that are better used certain times of the year or on certain plants. This color burst being great, even though it's a higher nitrogen, this would be great for your pansies, snapdragons, things that are going to require the energy to bloom during the fall and winter. They use it up faster. So this is great for them. Springtime, getting into your other annuals for the spring and summer, that one's great for it. I would not use this on any of my trees and shrubbery out in the yard. As far as this time of year. It's spring, summer, yes, you can use that on the trees and shrubbery. There are very many different varieties of fertilizer. I can't tell you one's better than another in that sense. It's what you're needing. I hate to say it, there's one I am not going to recommend. That's the tree spice. I've heard of horror stories where root systems have gotten burned up because of it.
And by the way, when you plant, this is real important too, don't put fertilizer in the bottom of the hole when you plant. Some people think it's okay to do that, and maybe they've gotten away with it depending on how much. But generally, if you put fertilizer in the bottom of the hole, it's going to eat up the roots. It's just going to be overpowering for trying to get a new plant started. So put it on top, let it soak in. Now there's another type of fertilizer that you'll hear people talk about. It's starting to become real popular, and in the spring we're going to have the Bayer people out here to talk about it. It's called the systemic, or a 3-in-1. And what that is it's a fertilizer, it's an insecticide, and it's a fungicide, all in one bottle of liquid. Okay, and it's a lot like getting a flu shot. You pour it around the plant. You don't spray it on the plant. You pour it around the plant, and the plant absorbs it through its root system, and so it gets its nutrients that way. And then in the spring, when the Japanese beetles show up and they munch on a rose bush, If you've treated it with this, they'll die. They won't stay there forever and continue to eat. So the plant absorbs the insecticide in the body of the plant, and then when the bugs bite it, they die. So this is becoming really popular, and the Bayer website, this is made by the same people that make the aspirin. They have a chemical division. And anyway, they have great tutorials on their website if you're interested to go there. It shows you every one of there's 3 or 4 different varieties that they make. It explains them all, when to use them, how to use them, and so forth. It's great stuff. When would you fertilize first, in the spring or in the fall?
When would I fertilize first? I'd say spring would be my first time to fertilize, unless I'm planting this time. If I planted in fresh yard and everything this time of year, that's when I go to my low nitrogen fertilizer and do a little bit, nothing really that much. Following directions on the packages, how much to put out to the plant. As far as if I'm just getting here in the spring, I've got either I'm fresh planting or established yard, I'd say somewhere around late March, 1st of April. Key thing about the late March, 1st of April, generally we get a late freeze, somewhere around mid-April. So if you catch it the first part of March, you're going to force out all this nice new growth, and then we get the late freeze. You can do major plant damage that way. Late freezes, if you got sap running good, dwarf gardenias are one of them, bitterspores are another. You hit the late freeze and it busts the bark. All the sap in it, it'll freeze up. And the next thing you know, either the plant's dead or you got sections dying out. I've even seen it with azaleas. Well, how long does it take to find out about that? Generally you find out in July. Great time to be the replacement, right?
Yeah, so if you think about the plant's natural life cycle, it's trying to go dormant right now. So you don't want to do anything that makes it try to grow, and then we get a freeze. And we'll get a freeze. Believe me, you'll see us scramble around here probably in early April when we think we're safe. And the roses have got a lot of new growth and a lot of buds on them. And then we'll get a frost and a freeze. We're running like crazy to pitch frost blankets over all the roses so that the roses don't get harmed. And it usually works. In fact, it's always worked so far. Knock on wood.
But wait until about the first part of April, late in March. Generally, your fertilizer, depending on what you use, can take anywhere from about 2 to 3 weeks before it even starts to release. So it starts releasing. It's hitting the late April part. Plants are just starting to grow, and you're safe.